I was the president in '89. My successor was Eric Hers, IEEE, with 300,000 members, and here we were with maybe 3,500 at that point. So the biggest succeeded the smallest, and we thought that was pretty neat. Anyway, we always wanted to have fun, we being the past presidents of SES. So, and each past president of SES gets a little figurine of the secretary bird. The secretary bird is a real bird which cruises around the plains of Africa and eats snakes. But anyway, secretary bird is sort of the motto or the logo of SES. So the year that Eric succeeded me, rather than present him with the little bird on the pedestal, we gave him a dead chicken. And then we gave him the bird. Anyway, we had fun.
Yeah, that was the funnest.
I'd like a point not go unnoticed here. This guy was the president of SES, the Scientific Engineering Society Executives. The leaders of the engineering scientific societies, 200 of them, are organized in SES. We were nobody when in my early career. He was president of that group. Our guy, our fire protection engineering guy, was president of SES. That was an amazing thing and a real feather in our cap. Peter helped us on the map with that.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, what's always been interesting with SES, and maybe it still holds now, but really the dominating force were ASME, which is the mechanicals, ASCE, which is the civils, IEEE, which is the electrical and electronics engineers, and AICHE, which is the chemical engineers. And I suspect that that's still the dominating force of SES. Yeah. And then you get over to, well, we should mention Engineers Joint Council, which is another gathering of the presidents, in this case, of all the engineering societies, and that too is pretty much, or was pretty much dominated by those four engineering disciplines. And we worked pretty hard, we being presidents and executive directors, to get involved with that group. And ultimately that paid off because a guy by the name of Ken Dungan became president of EJC, which I must say a lot of us worked kind of diligently to make happen.
We had arrived.
We had arrived.
Exactly.
We had arrived. I think the society is a lot to be proud of over time, because it's been arrived, and I think has arrived, and it's been accepted, and it happened some years back as a viable member of the total engineering community. I don't think SFPE is any kind of a second-rate citizen. They're right up there with the best of them.
It's kind of fun to be in a profession where you arrived on your watch. You know,
Yeah.
my profession
Absolutely.
arrived while I was still practicing. That was pretty cool. I can say one thing: I never got up in the morning and regretted going to work. I loved every day of my career. I worked 45 years, and every day was a good day. One of my proudest moments, of course, was Worcester Polytechnic Institute. When I started there, as I said, in 1979, there was no academic degree program, and I, played a key role in putting it together, recruiting the faculty and students and books and research projects, and getting it going for 25 years. That's a proud moment for me. I was certainly not a singular person. I was a member of the team, but I'm proud of that fact. Another one for me that was much more singular was when I was the state fire marshal in Ohio. Ohio had the misfortune of having more nursing home fire deaths than all the rest of the states combined for over a 10-year period. We were the nursing home death capital of the country. Just fluky statistics, I guess, but we had a lot of nursing home deaths, and it was making headline newspapers. And the governor called me into his office and said, I was state fire, he said, we have to stop these headline fires. We don't want any more of these headline fires in Ohio. What do we have to do? I said, it's real simple. Sprinklers. We need to put sprinklers in all the nursing homes. Well, we were talking about 1,200 and some nursing homes. About 1,000 of them had no sprinklers. Retroactively requiring these mom and pop nursing homes to put sprinklers in was politically suicide, he thought. I said, let's give it some time, let's work on it. So I went to the Ohio Nursing Home Association, the representatives of their group, put some fires together, showed them fires in nursing homes and what happens, and got them on board and to understand, and got them behind the program. They supported the bill with legislation. We got legislation passed. I adopted the standards and enforced them, and we sprinkled 1,000 nursing homes over a period of time. There hasn't been a multiple death fire in those in Ohio since. So I felt that I was not only doing my engineering job, but I was in a political environment. It was a very political environment that I was working in. And I found that my engineering mind, my engineering logic could overpower some of the political landmines out there, which was very gratifying. And I'd like to see more engineers in government because of that. I think the engineering mindset can be very powerful if you get past the point of finding politics so distasteful, you know, and like we see in the presidential debates and stuff. It's just can be, politics appears to be so distasteful, which it is in many worlds, but a good engineer in a political environment can make a lot of difference, and I felt that I did make a difference in that case and played a big role in getting those nursing homes protected. Maybe a lot of other people without that technical background couldn't have done quite so effectively.
Another key technical development, which we really shouldn't forget, Dwayne Pearsall, the fire detector.
Yeah.
Talk. You know the story as well as anyone.
Well, this was a technological innovation. Home smoke detectors, to me, are like seat belts in cars. A real simple solution to a big problem. Back in the 60s and 70s, smoke detectors didn't exist in people's homes at all. Now they're in 94% of the American households. Because of Dwayne Pearsall and a guy by the name of Lyman Blackwell, an engineer, put together this affordable battery-powered home smoke detector, got on the marketplace, got the codes and standards to require it. And over a period of years, basically all the homes in the United States of America are protected with smoke detectors. And the number of deaths has gone down 50% in our country. Now, that was a major accomplishment, and it took a lot of work, both technically and politically, to get those codes and standards adopted into law. Again, as the engineering community, myself and others, played a big role in that. We understood public policy, we understood cost benefits, we understood the technology. We could advocate for that concept. And when I was a state fire marshal, we adopted the first statewide requirement for home smoke detectors. Because I just had the credibility and the know-how to do it, and it made a big difference. So again, I think the engineer in the world of politics can make a difference.
Well, it also gets to engineering the solution, or solutions in the plural, to the fire problem. And a lot of it has been engineered, no question about it. And that's been fire protection engineers in great measure who've done it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of neat. So you asked about a key moment for me within SFPE, and I go back again to those two things of engineering registration and the textbook. Those two things were pretty neat accomplishments. And again, it was volunteers that essentially did it all, and they did a phenomenal job.
I mentioned one other thing that fire protection engineers have done that's pretty profound, and that is back in the 1800s, when the industrial revolution was at its peak in this country, manufacturing mills in New England were being built up, cities were being built up, industrialized. Cities started burning down, from Seattle to New Orleans to Portland to Charleston, to New York
Chicago.
City, Boston, Philadelphia, burned down. Because they were just built to burn. There was so much money in industrialization going into these cities, they didn't think about fires. Chicago burned in 1871. Chicago burned, and 100,000 people were left homeless. Imagine that today. If there was a fire in a city today, left 100,000 people homeless, it would be incredibly newsworthy, right? The insurance industry created fire protection engineering to solve that problem, and through the IIT program and codes and standards and Factory Mutual and Underwriters Laboratories and all these institutions we take for granted today, NFPA. And fire protection engineers went to work, and we don't have cities burning down anymore. We still have fires, we still have losses, but we don't have cities burning down anymore like we did in the 1800s because of fire protection. That's a huge impact.
Yep.
You don't think about it.
In fact, that we were working on the presentation, we discovered that a great many innovators in fire protection just happen to hold degrees or are involved with Massachusetts Institute of Technology in one way or another, either academically as a student or members of the Board of Trustees or a Board of Directors or what have you. There's some pretty significant names that are in the annals of MIT. And they
1860s.
Yep.
Yeah.
1860s. Yep.
In fact, one insurance executive for one of the mutual companies testified before the Massachusetts state legislature supporting the need for MIT. He said if MIT didn't do anything else but fire safety, it would be well worth the effort to create the institution. You know, the insurance industry was supporting MIT for reasons of fire safety. Needed the manpower.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Of course, MIT didn't quite measure up. We got IIT and University of Maryland.
Yeah, certain of us who know a little bit about the history of MIT, which is a land-grant college, refer to it as that little trade school on the Charles River, which does not go over too well. As David said about being a fire protection engineer, never regretted going to work any morning, and I was the same way on the association, society management side of the street. I enjoyed every bloody minute of it. It was good, and it was fun.
It's kind of funny. I talk to people about how they get started in their careers, you know, medicine or whatever it is. And so often it's a fluky thing. You know, in my case, it was just a fluke that I was asked to be a volunteer firefighter. It's just a fluke that I learned about the scholarship at IIT. And, you know, it's just a fluky thing that came my way. It could have been some other fluky thing that could have ended up in some other career. So you know, things happened to me that took me through this journey through my life, and you know, the different jobs I had were all pretty much just came my way, and that was very lucky that way. I felt very fortunate. The one thing I would do differently, though, in my education is I wish I'd gotten a more well-rounded liberal arts education. I wish in addition to my engineering degree, I wish I'd done more arts and humanities type studies and had some, maybe a year abroad or something to round me out. It took me a while to get the edges rubbed off my engineering geekiness. You know, I really, now I'm a little older. I'm retired. I'm doing portrait art. I'm doing nonfiction, writing nonfiction stories, traveling around the world, and appreciating other cultures, and my life is richer now because of that. I wish I'd studied those things earlier in my life so I could have blended it into my life as well. That's one thing I would have done differently.
Being in the association management profession, I always believed that if you're going to be an association or voluntary membership organization chief staff person, that you had to stay involved yourself as a volunteer in some organization or organizations in the plural. CES was one of them, but there were ulterior motives there. That was the promotion of SFPE. But I always have stayed involved with voluntary membership organizations. The big thing while I was with SFPE was my church involvement. But again, I was still always working with volunteers. And in retirement, I volunteered between a historical society and a church and a library and a bunch of other stuff. But the volunteerism continues. And following up with David, the opportunity to travel. Actually, my wife and I have done a fair amount of that in retirement.
Yeah, volunteerism is a great engine of talent and progress in our country, I think. And the Engineering Society is the one. I have Parkinson's disease now. I was diagnosed 5 years ago. Very active in volunteering for the Parkinson's movement. You know, an advocate for families and patients. It helps me as a patient, you know, cope with my own disease by volunteering for others. It's just cathartic and useful. We help each other. You know, it's really part of my life. It, you know, always has been from the time I was volunteering as a high school kid.
Yep, volunteer fireman.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Rolf Jensen was a bit of a legend, and particularly for those of us who got to know him. And David got to know him, and I got to know him as a president. He was a bit of the internationalist and got us across the pond, so to speak, in a number of activities, which worked out very nicely. When Jack Bono retired, I was asked to roast him a little bit. Well, Jack Bono's contribution to my life was that he was a jogger, and he taught me to jog. So when he retired, I got the oldest, smelliest pair of sneakers I could find, and said, "Jack, here. This is what you did for me." Anyway, but he was quite a guy. Sitting in the back of the room when I was being introduced, one of the things I used to say, "Thank you very much for that very kind introduction." And I thought, you know, you were introducing me to St. Peter on high. But then I looked over in the corner and saw Rolf Jensen and realized I must have gone the other way. But he was a guy that could take it. And we had a lot of fun. lot of fun.
You've probably heard Rolf Jensen's name before.
Yep, definitely.
He's a legend. He's just a legend, you know, in
Yeah.
so many ways.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
When I was in college, we had the college campus was at 32nd and State Street on the south side of Chicago. We had our labs at Underwriters Laboratories in Northbrook, Illinois on Saturdays. That was our college labs. Rolf Jensen was my instructor. He was an engineer at UL. He taught our lab class. So I did a lab experiment, wrote up the report, turned it in, I got a bad grade. I thought it was a bad grade. I thought I should have got it better. So I went and talked to Rolf Jensen. I said, Professor Jensen, how do you grade these? I mean, I thought I did better than this. He said, I go home and I go up my stairway, throw the reports down the stairs. The ones that land on the top steps get the best grades, the ones that land on the bottom steps get the worst grades. He laughed. He was here. Everybody loved him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Again, it was good to be in a career at a time
Yeah.
when you could know the real founding
Yeah.
legends, legendary
Yeah.
people in our
Yeah.
field. Not only
Yeah.
the coming of age kind of period where we hadn't arrived until we were
Yeah.
there. And
Knew Johnny Ahern, knew Dick Stevens, knew Bill Walls, knew Jack Bono, knew Tom Castino,
well, sure,
and Baron Whitaker. We even knew him,
He was
who was the president of UL before Jack. So anyway, those legends were still very much alive at that point in time. Yeah. Visited with Johnny Ahern in his closing days, and he was
the first president of the society.
yeah, and he was at that point was in a wheelchair, and Gladys maintained her vertical equilibrium by pushing the wheelchair, and so we visited with them, and then went out to lunch, and they were both probably in their mid-80s at that point. But the long and the short of it was a very emotional moment for all of us, because the four of us, my wife and I and Gladys and John, realized it would probably be the last time we'd see one another. Very emotional. Still get choked up. But he was the founder, so to speak.
One of the things I think I've found over the years too is that, like firefighters, you know, the fire protection engineers are sort of comrades, or they have a cause greater than themselves many times. You know, we're in this for a reason more than just making a few dollars, making a living. You know, most of the men and women I've known over the years are really committed to doing it and helping each other. And you know, there is competition between consulting firms and others, but when you come down to the basics, we're all in this together for a reason, and it's the reason to save lives and make people safer and stuff. And that, you know, makes us a little different than some other groups of engineers, I think.
Well, one of the points that President Heald of IIT did at that first SFPE annual meeting, he outlined 6 points to be a profession, and one of the ones I guess was number 4 or 5, but he said a profession or a professional has a sense of service over profit, and that certainly is fire protection engineering. What's also been kind of interesting, and this comes up again tomorrow, but fire technology, when it was originally put into place by the NFPA, it was published by the NFPA but sponsored by the SFPE, and this was another indication of how they supported fire protection engineering, because they let the society put the triangle on the cover at no cost, and you know, there it went for a number of years, and it wasn't an SFPE member benefit until about the mid-70s, and then we staff and key volunteers were getting a fair amount of flack from the membership that fire technology was too esoteric for their needs. They wanted something which was more applications oriented. So certainly we thought that the publication belonged to SFPE. Our logo was on the front of it, it belonged to us. So at one point in time we had a sit down with the then president of the NFPA and said, we'd like to acquire fire technology, and the president then said, I am not about to preside at the dissolution of the empire. That was sort of a little bit of a low point. But anyway, so at some future time, the fire tech was too esoteric, and we tried to ask if NFPA, and we worked with the editors to try and tame it down a little bit, and make it more applications oriented. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to keep it at the level at which it is now. And coincidentally, at that same point in time, they raised the price. So the board of directors of SFPE said, well, end of fire technology, and we entered then into technology reports. So now for me, to see the Journal of Fire Protection Engineering and Fire Technology become one, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
One message we could leave for the archives in this video is for young people. High school kids, college kids, who are trying to decide what they want to be when they grow up. Fire protection engineering is a great career. Of course, I would say that. It was my lifetime, but salaries are good. There are lots of jobs out there in all sectors, no matter where you want to. There's transportation, hospitals, nursing homes, consulting companies, aircraft companies, space travel. You name it, there's a fire protection engineer there somewhere doing an important job. And you know, it's easy to get into. You could start out in civil engineering, you can start out in mechanical engineering, get a bachelor's degree in mechanical, civil, electrical, chemical, mathematics, physics. Start out in one field and learn the basics, and then take a master's degree in fire protection engineering. Or start out with a bachelor's degree in fire protection engineering. Or go to Oklahoma State, get a 4-year degree in fire protection engineering technology. There are lots of different ways to do it. Locally, you can do distance learning, do it at home, in another school, transfer classes. There's a whole myriad of routes. You don't have to just go to one school to get your degree. There are lots of different ways to do it. So I encourage young people who are trying to think about what they want to do when they grow up. Don't look at it as a final irreversible decision. Just start out on a pathway. And then if you like engineering, start down that road and start looking at different fields as you go, and think about fire protection engineering as an option and go from there. It's a great place to be in a career. I was in it for 45 years, and the economy took ups and downs over the years, and engineering jobs are up and down. Fire protection engineering were always up. There was always a demand. I don't remember any graduate in my department ever having trouble finding a job.
Yeah. Yep. Always strong demand.
Strong demand.
Short supply, which does nice things for salaries.
And it's rewarding beyond the dollars, too. As I said, you know, feeling you're doing
Absolutely.
a good thing for society and protecting people, and something that makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
Which ain't bad either. I decided to show the nursing home industry what a nursing home fire is like. I'd burn one.
Yeah.
So I got an old Army hospital that was vacant, and I set up a nursing home room on one side of the hallway and a nursing home room on the other side of the hallway. A real nursing home room, a bed, dresser, clothing, greeting cards on the dresser, authentic nursing home rooms. One had a sprinkler system, one didn't. I invited the president of the Nursing Home Association and his board to come and watch this fire with a video film at the time. We filmed it. Put a live person in the bed, set fire to the room, said, stay there as long as you can. This was a fireman. He was wearing a t-shirt and blue jeans. The sprinklered room, the fire, about 2 minutes went by, the sprinkler head came off, sprayed water and got him wet, and he was okay, no problem. He walked out. Went across from him, set exactly the same fire in the other room. Had the guy stay in there as long as he could, which was a big mistake. About 2.5 minutes, the flames were coming across the ceiling.
Woo.
The hot layer was coming down towards me. He was laying in bed like this, looking up, saying, should I try to get out an hour, cover myself up with covers and protect myself? This guy weighed 250 pounds. He got on his hands and knees and crawled out, fortunately, because the temperature, the breathing level was 500 degrees Fahrenheit in 2.5 minutes. He would have killed himself. This is a dumb thing we did, but the nursing home people were impressed that a fire could happen that fast, 2.5 minutes, and kill people. They had no idea. They saw it with their own eyes and saw that we took the video around all the nursing home groups all over the state and showed it to them. Showed them what could happen in their place. They had no idea what it was really like. I, as an engineer, knew what would happen, but I couldn't. Telling them verbally didn't really connect. So the pictures, the videos, did it, and that's what got them behind the whole legislation that passed in the state legislature. It's a combination of engineering and videography that made it work. People just don't know.